you're very familiar with Bushey. And then across London, we've also got Richmond Park nearby. Then we've got Kensington Gardens and Hyde Park right next to each other in the centre, Regent's Park in the north, the Green and St James's Park just next to Buckingham Palace, and then Greenwich Park over in the east. And then for those of you who don't know, we also manage Brompton Cemetery and Victoria Tower Gardens, which is just in the very centre of the city. And we actually do have a hand in managing the Downing Street Gardens as well. So I just was going to get up a few photos and see if you can recognise them as they come up. And so this is what Rebecca was saying. If you wanted to put your suggestions in the chat box there for what photo this is, if you can tell from the picture. Obviously, some of the parks are quite iconic and some of them are a little bit more tricky, but just kind of give you a flavour of all the different...
Come on, we all know this one. Anybody get in there, have a guess? If you can type it into the chat box.
The clue is the view down the middle. If you
can
see something right in the distance.
They're all being a bit, no, you're not going to get it. I'm going to have a guess at Richmond, because yes, I know that view, that takes you all the way into the city, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, I have it, yeah. Park, the King Henry's Mound view of St Paul's Cathedral. So if you go, you can look.
Thank you, David.
You can look through the telescope there. It's a protected view all the way to St Paul's, which is really beautiful. Then we've got this one. Some very pretty roses and a little statue.
Anybody know what that one is? Regent's Park, I'm getting for David again. David, you're going to win all the prizes today.
Yeah, it does look a lot like Regent's Park. Yeah, there's a really lovely rose garden there, but actually Kensington. This one is Hyde Park Rose Garden.
Oh, is it? I've got Kensington people in as well.
The Queen Mary one in Regent's is really, really stunning. And then, so these guys should give away what park this is. If you're aware of where we've got pelicans, then you'll definitely know where that one is.
St James's.
Yes,
I have as well.
Yeah,
again,
that one is St James's. So the pelicans of St James's is very famous. And then this one, the little clue is that you've already guessed one of the parks that this one is.
So I should go back over the other answers so we can, we can put that one in. So I'm guessing it's Regent's. No?
Yeah, the Regent's,
okay.
Avenue Gardens. Yeah, so these are some of the kind of iconic spots of some of the royal parks, the real places that everyone recognises from the kind of formal gardens and the species that we've introduced there. But aside from those kind of managed kind of parts of the park, we've also got a huge amount of biodiversity, and that's everything from the invertebrates to hedgehogs and birds and mammals, and there's a huge amount of trees and river networks. We have a massive amount of recording going on, species that we're recording both with professional surveys and with volunteers. And you can see from the map that we really do kind of span the centre of London all the way across down the river. So really special biodiversity. And so these are some of the pictures that you might not recognise, so maybe I'll skim through these a little bit quicker. So this photo here with the bluebells and the lovely woodland is Richmond Park, Isabella Plantation. So you might not think that, that's a park in London, in our busiest city in the country. This one here with the lovely wild looking meadow and trees is actually Hyde Park, right in the middle of the city. Then this one here with the reed bed and the lake and all the kind of lovely trees around in the background is St James's Park, right next to the Buckingham Palace. And this one here where we've got these kind of big thistles and wild looking area is the Regent's Park meadow, right next to where we've got our bee bank. So Mission Invertebrate is a project that aims to enrich wildlife in the London's royal parks, and they're some of the largest and busiest green spaces in London, and we're doing this by supporting invertebrates, which are the park's most important habitats that all the other wildlife relies on. So those of you who don't know the difference between an invertebrate would be the spinal cord, so all those kinds of things like insects and spiders and mollusks. We do a range of things from family activities where we have kids come over to the parks or come to our base at the Lookout and learn all about wildlife. We do walks and talks, we do volunteering, things like citizen science and habitat enhancement projects, and we do a lot of engagement with schools where our team goes over to schools and does assemblies, or we have schools come to the parks and do learning with our learning team. Another big branch of what we do is fund habitat enhancement projects. So that's quite a big part of my role, creating briefs and then identifying with the ecology team what needs to be done, and then getting contractors in to help us do that. So this is an example from this year with a company called Olympic, who were helping us do some habitat enhancements at the Regent's Park. the lake there, they basically scooped up a load of silt from the bottom of the lake and put it on the island to create a marginal bank that then they're doing aquatic habitat enhancement by planting a range of marginal and aquatic plants, and then that will increase biodiversity through inviting more invertebrates and then subsequently all different kinds of birds and mammals and that kind of thing. This is a picture of some of the hedge laying that was going on as well earlier in the year in Richmond Park in Two Storm Wood. So hedge laying really improves hedge habitat by kind of creating these much more dense structures that then create wildlife corridors that link up different populations of invertebrates and other animals. And it just encourages the hedge to create more leaves and more flowers and then, you know, more biodiversity value. You would have seen these before if you know very familiar with Bushy Park. So these are Mission Invertebrate funded planters that have acted as a roadblock as part of our movement strategy trial to close that road. And this is a photo that Phil sent me from a little while ago. So Rebecca was saying they look a little bit more lush than that now. But these are some of the plant species that we've planted in there with the idea to have, you know, beautiful flowers across the year, but also flowers that provide pollen and nectar for pollinating insects to be able to forage across the year. Then you may have also seen the works that were going on at Fisher's Pond. So I had quite a big hand in getting that together. It's kind of been a project that's been in the pipeline for a couple of years now, and luckily we sort of just pushed it through within our funding for last year. And it was a company called Five Rivers who came in and altered the stream going into Fisher's Pond, and then also did some desilting of the actual pond, where basically loads of silt and mud and that kind of thing had built up over time, meant that the water depth was very shallow, not very good for wildlife at all, and the stream was very straight and completely blocked up. So we had those contractors come in and scoop it all out and then renaturalize the river by creating these meanders, which are much more like a natural river, where you have this what we call habitat heterogeneity, where we have these kind of different niches that wildlife can occupy. And within that also we did some aquatic planting. So similar to Regent's Park, the more variety of habitat and aquatic plants you have, the more variety of biodiversity, especially with aquatic biodiversity, you'll invite. So it could be things like dragonflies and damselflies or water beetles. And of course, they all provide food for various other animals and birds and amphibians. So those are kind of works that we do with contractors, but we also do a lot of stuff with volunteers, and that is increasing as the Royal Parks have just created our volunteer strategy. And you know, we really like to engage more with volunteers. It's a great way to have people feel more ownership over the parks. It's fun, it's obviously free, and now we're a charity. You know, we're looking for ways that we can make sure that we're looking after the pennies as much as we can. So these are some volunteers who are working in Green Park to manage the wildflower meadow there by clearing away the dead leaves and materials, so that then it could be scoured and seed sown. So yeah, these are some of the kind of plants that we might find in the wildflower meadow, and some of the lovely invertebrates that you might see there. So we've got a little bee fly there, which is a fly that imitates a bee, marbled white butterfly, and I think there's cardinal beetles there on the right hand side. So yeah, lovely work of volunteers across our parks, and we're hoping to expand the work that we do with them. My role also focuses on citizen science, and you know, with lockdown last year and working from home, when we had to be very careful about gatherings and that kind of thing, I haven't been able to do so much of this yet, but really hoping to, you know, now things are up and running a bit, do more this year. But so these photos are some from projects that were done in 2009 in the Regent's Park, looking at invertebrates in different spots. But there's also been other citizen science projects, like the mapping of the anthills in Bushy. I'm going to be getting volunteers to map the anthills in Brompton Cemetery later in the year, and you know, various other activities that really great work from those volunteers. The Brompton Cemetery transect you can see here. It's a really beautiful site. I was there this week. If you haven't been, I definitely highly recommend having a look. And luckily we're allowed now to leave the grass much longer, so it basically all looks kind of lovely and wild, and you know, full of meadow and sweet peas. And when I was there the other day, it's just so beautiful, and it really helps support all those kinds of butterflies that we would hope to attract. And so our citizen science volunteers are going and doing weekly transect walks to have a look at what butterflies they can find, which is really helpful data for us to then support. You know, look, we've left this grass long, it's seen this much increase in butterfly biodiversity, and so that's a really valuable thing to do. Another example is the hawthorn mapping in Richmond Park. So you can see the map of Richmond Park there on the left and our volunteers down there on the right. And basically, if we know where all the hawthorn is, we can then reconnect hawthorn to deadwood, because Richmond Park is triple SI mainly because it's saprophilic invertebrates, which are invertebrates that live in deadwood. And when they come out of their hibernation in deadwood, they need to quickly find pollen and nectar source of hawthorn. So if we can connect up the hawthorn to the deadwood, it improves saprophilic invertebrate biodiversity and helps us maintain that triple SI status. We also fund specialist surveys. So on the left there is a survey of terrestrial invertebrates in Hyde Park, and on the right is a survey of the Odonata in Bushy Park. So for those of you who don't know, Odonata are damselflies and dragonflies. And so having these kind of specialist taxonomists come in and do these surveys for us that, you know, we as generalists wouldn't know, you know, those kind of details that we need to do the identification. That's really important data for us as well. Then part of my role as well is to do adult learning activities that are on the kind of more fun side of things without the, you know, real nitty-gritty data collection. So this is an example of one of those, which is a solitary bee walk with our ecologist and bee expert Claudia. And we are running another one of those in Greenwich Park on the 11th of July. So if you'd like to come along for that, tickets are free and they're available to book via our TRP shop. This is the moth trapping event with our expert lepidopterist Tim Freed, who's a partner that we've worked with for a few years. And we will be doing a moth night in August. We haven't got the date for that yet, but that will also be in Greenwich Park, but with a different specialist called Joe Beale. And yeah, hopefully there'll be other activities happening across the year. We've had to be a bit tentative with it, but keep an eye out for our website for those. Then another big branch of Mission Invertebrate is learning with schools and families. So on the left here, you can see a school assembly with our learning team. There's Kirsty and Charlie, and a family looking at some bugs in the park. So these are really important to get kids inspired at a young age to know what invertebrates are and how to protect them, and just have that real passion for nature, especially living in the city. Sometimes you don't always get those opportunities. We also have partners at the FSC who deliver subsidised Mission Invertebrate school sessions out of Bushy Park. You'll probably all know that that's where they're based. So they do those free and discounted sessions for non-fee paying schools because, you know, Mission Invertebrate are on a mission to enthuse students about the wonders of the invertebrate world. So this is some shots of the learning events with our schools in our parks with Kirsty and Charlie on the left there. And just one of the flyers that we have of our school offers. So there are school offers for this year, and you know, getting our dates in for more family activities as well, which is really exciting. And it's really important to engage with kids at this age and, you know, really get them thinking about this going forward for the future. And this is an image of our Bugmobile, which will be coming to Bushy Park later in the year on the 5th of August. And that will be parked next to the Pheasantry Cafe. And the kind of running of the day will be very informal. It's like a drop-in session where families can just swing by, have a look at what's going on. We've got different kinds of created habitats inside. So there's a bit of a woodland habitat, a meadow habitat, and a kind of aquatic looking habitat, and there's stickers of different bugs all around, so they can do like a bug bingo and find out what the different invertebrates are there and learn about why they might be found in those habitats. There's various kind of creative games that they can do and things to take away, and yeah, I think with hoping to, you know, encourage a bit of social distancing, a lot of the things will be things that they can take away, and we'll have things like specimens that they can see. So it's a really fun casual kind of learning day. I haven't actually ever got the chance to go along on one of these, but I will be coming along on some dates for this year. I'm not sure if I'm down for the Bushy one, but if I am, I look forward to seeing you then. So yeah, this is something that obviously gets quite a lot of attention, this giant van covered in lovely wildflower painting. So yeah, I think Rebecca was saying it would be really great to have your support on those days to sort of encourage people in that direction. So these are some photos from previous roadshows where we've got some kids looking at our specimens and families kind of gathering around to, you know, listen to what's happening. That's Bryony down there in the middle, who had the role before me. She's moved to the volunteer team now, just, you know, getting the kids inspired. And then the bottom right there is Olivia, who's our storyteller, and does some absolutely fantastic stories for the kids. Really, really lovely. So that's kind of thing that'll be going on when the roadshow comes to Bushy Park. Then this is just an example of some of the kind of online resources that we have. So if you just go to the Mission Invertebrate website and then look at resources, we've got a whole load of resources for kids and adults with these lovely kind of PDFs. So this is tips on how to make seed walls, just one of the examples of things that we have. And for adults, we've got things like planting guides around planting for pollinators in sunny and shady gardens, how to create your own wildflower meadow, things like creating container ponds, and a bit of more nerdy information about flower architecture and how invertebrates have evolved alongside different kinds of flowers. We've also done a few videos. You can see there's photographing insects with Penny Nettle. She's based in Peckham, and she just went out to her local park basically and tried to photograph every invertebrate that she could find. And from that has sort of built up her skills in photography. So that video is just talking about how to find them in your garden and how to kind of have what she has a pollinator pot garden without having any grass in her front garden. She's got loads of lovely pots of different kinds of plants and attract really amazing range of invertebrates there to photograph. One of the other kind of media projects that we have are these More Than Bugs walking trails. At the moment, we don't have one yet for Bushy Park, but I'm sure we would love to do that at some stage if we can. But at the minute, they're more of the kind of central park. So this is the one in Kensington Gardens that goes around the Longwater. And so there are PDFs online that people can download, and there's more information on the other side with those points of interest about the kind of species that you'll see, the wildlife, and what we're doing to protect it. And then our social media pages on Twitter and Instagram, if you'd like to follow us as well, at More Than Bugs on Twitter and Mission Invertebrate on Instagram. So there we try and highlight, the things that are going on and facts about invertebrates, and yeah, just get really nerdy and excited about the bugs in the parks, really. So many of you may already know that Bushy Park is a SSSI, so a site of special scientific interest, and has been designated because of its internationally significant population of rare insects, the exceptionally large number of ancient and veteran trees going on site, and the presence of extensive areas of acid grassland habitat. So like I was saying earlier on, those saprophilic invertebrates that live in ancient decaying wood, having those large numbers of veteran trees really helps enhance those kinds of species. And the trees at Bushy Park are survivors of a wood pasture management that dates back to the 15th century. So more than 200 veteran trees have been identified at the site, of which 94 are classed as ancient. And the site's one of only 44 sites nationally known to support more than 100 veteran trees, and is the highest ranking of 10 comparable sites in Greater London area. So really special site, really special veteran trees that support that really special invertebrate population. And some of those that you might see around are things like the skippers at the top there, then at the bottom there, the small copper, those gorgeous orange glowing wings, really, really lovely, and the small heath in the middle. These are just 3 of the 123 nationally scarce or threatened species recorded so far. So yeah, really exciting invertebrate community there. In 2005, Bushy was found to have the nationally important double line moth, which is in southern and eastern England, only found in Richmond Park and Wimbledon Common, so really special, that one. And it's also an important site for solitary bees and wasps, with over 150 species found so far. And these tiny, frantically busy insects are no threat to humans, and if you have sharp eyes, you can find them burrowing in the bare sandy soils on worn paths. So you can see it there at the top right. Actually, there's a large amount of bees that live underground. Most people think that of honeybees and living in hives, but a lot of them are living underground, and you can tell what a bee hole looks like as opposed to another kind of hole, because it's perfectly spherical. So yeah, really, lovely, huge amount of species there as well. And those ancient trees that we were talking about and the decaying wood habitat in the park, that's nationally important for a number of internationally endangered invertebrates, including the rusty click beetle at the top there, the cardinal click beetle in the middle, and the stag beetle, which Rebecca was telling me that you have a specimen of that you can show off, I think the lesser stag beetle. So that's really exciting. That 2018 study that I mentioned in the video that I also did around aquatic invertebrates found 18 species of Odonata, and an increase in Odonata diversity found at all the sites in Bushy, which is really exciting and shows that these habitat works that we're doing, making things a bit more wild, is really helping biodiversity. And we hope that with things like Fisher's Pond, that will only continue to improve those species, and get them, not back to natural levels that they would have been hundreds and hundreds of years ago, but it shows how much we can really have an impact when we try and do those kind of small actions do all add up. Those iconic ones that you would definitely have seen are the yellow meadow ants with those humps all over the field. Looks like strange troll heads kind of poking up from underground, but no, they are actually ant hills. And in each ant hill, you could find up 8 to 14,000 ants, some of them up to 150 years old. So a lot of people don't know that, and you have park visitors coming in and jumping on them thinking that they're just tufts, and it's understandable. Why would you necessarily know that? So the work of the Friends to spread that information would be really helpful to encourage people to know that these are special habitats with these some very, very old, probably older than any of the park visitors, so really important to protect those. So yeah, that's the end of my talk, and here is the handles for our social media and the website if you'd like to go and check out more. I think I went through that a little bit fast. I was kind of aware of the time, but thanks so much for listening, and I'll stop sharing now so that if there's any questions.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Alice. Really, really good. Yes, and there's quite a lot of content in there, so obviously the recording will help if people want to review it again. I'm immediately thinking that